What is up, everyone? How are you doing today? I'm Anthony DiGiovanni, and this is another video for SacredU Philosophy. Today, we're talking about arrogance and how you might be arrogant. Look, if you're living your life and you're looking around, you don't have much friends, you feel a bit isolated, maybe you feel disconnected despite how connected we are technologically today, or you just feel at odds or not on the same plane as the external social world around you, and maybe you just feel like you're not going anywhere. You feel like you're not making any positive change in your career or your home life. Well, it might be because you're arrogant and you're stuck up. So we need to talk. We need to talk about this. And look, it's all in an attempt. Hopefully, it's probably not something you want to hear. If you do feel like you are arrogant and these things start to sound like you, but this is all an attempt to help us promote more self-awareness and try to be better versions of ourselves today and continue that process daily. So if you guys are in, you're ready, let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so when I started thinking about this, the first thing that came to me, and look, this is something like, let me just be completely open and humble here myself. Like, this is something that I like battle with myself. Like, I try to be as self-aware as I can because I'm like somewhat terrified of being arrogant and cocky. I think I probably was in my youth when I was younger, and it like hurt me when I'd get that critique because I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be that. So I try very hard to not be that. I don't want to come across as a douche. And so this is something that's like very important to me and something that's like heavy on my mind. But the first thing I thought of when I conceived of doing this video was that arrogance equals stagnance. And what I mean by that is like you can become stagnant. You can become glued down to where you're at in life if you're arrogant, okay? Arrogance usually implies that, kind of coming with it, is that you know everything that you already need to know. You've got it all figured out, and everybody should be looking at you. Well, the problem with that is the consequence of that is that you don't move, you don't change anywhere. Like, you're like, the most arrogant people I know are the ones that move in positive change the slowest. They're the slowest to change mentally. They're the slowest to change just in most terms, most practices, and it really affects them socially. And that's why I brought up being isolated or feeling like you have no friends at the beginning. Like, it could be because your arrogance is keeping you stagnant. Everyone's looking at you like, hey, we're going along this way, giving you hints, right? Like, we're moving, things move this way. Like, as we grow up, especially if you're younger, there's a flow, there's a current to life, there's a rhythm, and you get out of rhythm by being arrogant and kind of being in your own world and saying, yeah, I know everything. One thing I would tag onto this is to try and be like water, going back to the flow, the rhythm of life. Be like water. Don't be pushed around. Like, water's pretty powerful, especially when it's channeled and it's got its own energy going and whatnot. But so you're not a pushover by any means, but you go with the flow. And not to say like you never have any cause for concern, like a total, go with the flow type hippie. But you're malleable, you're movable. Water will take the form of whatever container it's put in. That's pretty amazing, right? So, but it takes a sense of humility. Water doesn't say, I am strictly water, I hold this and like it can't fit into a cup or it can't fit into a bowl. So there's some fluidity there, and you don't want to be like a rock, right? So that's kind of what I think would be the opposite. And look, water over time will erode a rock away. So don't be stagnant, and don't let your arrogance keep you in place, right? Okay, so that leads me right into our next point, which is that the good life, living a happy, whatever that means, I really don't know if the pursuit of happiness sometimes should be our highest ideal, but living a good life, because life is full of suffering and we have to fight to rise above it, fight to embrace it, to live a good life, is full of change. Like, reality is full of change. It's full of constant movement. It's what I was talking about when I said there's a rhythm. There's a flow to reality, flow to change. Sometimes you don't need to go down that flow. You maybe need to go your own way. Regardless, it's still changing. It's still moving. And like I said in the first term, arrogance leads to stagnance and it leads to stagnation, and you'll get stuck. One thing we need to talk about here is Carl Rogers. He saw the good life as a constant, ongoing process. He didn't say it was, to him, he was a psychologist, he didn't think that it was an end point. It was like a mountaintop that we all were climbing to. It was its own, like it was picked up along the way. Like you could only know you had a good life after you looked back at the end and saw that you picked it up along the way somehow. It was learned through the experience. Well, that's another downside to being arrogant. You don't usually get as much experience in life. You don't get as much experience socially. Like arrogance usually isolates you. It makes you alone, not only from friends, but most of the time family. So you're losing that experience. You're losing that learning, and consequently, therefore, losing the chance at earning and finding a good life. Because if we think Carl Rogers is right, well, the good life is found via experience, via living. My third point, and it's probably a big one, is that yes, you are valuable. I think maybe someone watching this might assume that this is a bit contradictory to the narrative, the themes that I've had in all my videos so far with self-esteem, which is that you inherently have value. You are uniquely dignified. You have validation just by being a human. But what we need to understand, and I just did a whole video on this, which I will tag the description. I will tag the link to in the description below, about how self-esteem does not equal you being special. It just means you have inherent value as a human, as we all do. Okay, but it does not make you special. Everybody has that. So we can't take that, right, and say, I got high self-esteem, I got high confidence, and let it boost this ego into thinking that, well, it's just you that's special. One thing to combat this is to start looking at everybody. Everybody has something to teach you, okay? Something to teach you either negatively or positively, something to show you, right? Like you should be observing as many people as you can throughout your daily life. It shouldn't just all be about you in this tunnel vision, narrow mindset where all you think about is you and the consequences of your life, because everybody is at all times in some way or fashion interacting with the environment around them as you are and as you should be and as you should be conscious of. That's how we create the maps of meaning in our lives. That's how we navigate through realities. We create a map via interaction with our environment. Well, part of the way to do that and become better at that, better at interacting with your environment, better at creating the map for reality, is by treating everybody like I just said, which is as if they have something to teach you. As if they have something that you could learn. And again, like I said, it could be negative. You could learn via the negative, right? I have a lot of examples of that in my own life, like learning how not to act by seeing it in my own life, so from other people. So we have to start looking at people as such. Another flip side to this, this whole concept that, right? Like, so we have self-esteem, you're inherently valuable, but it doesn't make you special, is this combat between conditional love or conditional acceptance and unconditional acceptance / love. I think it was Carl Rogers that came up with those two terms and came up with this whole theory, but essentially, like, unfortunately, a lot of times as we grow up, we are subject to conditional love, so what that means is, or conditional acceptance. So you're accepted or loved by means of you reaching this condition, right? And I don't think it's any malintent on our parents that this happens. I would be hard pressed to say that I'm going to be better as a parent. I'm going to try to be, if I ever do get to be one. But like you can see this coming naturally, right? So like we tell a lot of kids, just to keep them to be good, I think, hey, don't act this way, or else you're not going to be good, or else you won't be getting that toy you want, right? So you're creating a condition. You're creating an acceptance by condition. And I get it for disciplinary needs, but I think it can really affect us as we get older, and it could be affecting how you look at the world around you, people around you. And this isn't just a note now to people my age, my peers, or below. It's to everybody. Everybody. You gotta be really conscious if you're looking. You gotta be conscious to the concept that you might be treating people via conditional acceptance. You might be treating them by standards of what they can give you, not accepting them for just who they are, not loving them for just who they are. I think that's a call to all of us as humans to try to strive to love and accept humans unconditionally. And what that means is there is no condition. I'm not going to accept you based on blank, based on these judgments, based on these presuppositions. I'm going to accept you for who you are as a human, because you're a human and you go through the human plight just as I do, right? Everybody that's a human has suffered to some degree, to some extent. Okay, I don't care how much you've been through. Maybe you have been through more than me, or the person in the cubicle next to you, or the kid at school that picks on you. It doesn't matter. Like somebody, if you were to step into their shoes, everybody has faced or is facing something. So you're not more special in that sense, and you can't hold people to a conditional acceptance value. And I think if, again, tracing it back to the beginning, if you're feeling a disconnect with the world around you externally, if you feel like you're isolated, you don't have a lot of friends, it could feed, and this is a form of arrogance and selfishness, it could be because of this, that you're treating people with conditional acceptance and conditional love. Okay, and my fourth and final point, guys, is the ideal of humility through patience. If this video has spoken to you, or maybe you didn't even need this video to know that you kind of teeter and lean more towards being arrogant, and you want to be humble, or you've watched this video and now you want to try and be humble. It's something that I try to do every day. Well, something that I had to come to grips with, and I would encourage you to do so as well, is that you have to be patient with yourself and patient with the attempts. Life is best lived through experience and best lived by going out and trying. And so it's the same with trying to be humble, trying to combat your arrogance, your selfishness. And look, guys, we all don't feel guilty for this. Like, we as humans all have a inherent tilt towards selfishness. So I get it. Like, if anybody gets it, I get it. I'm not pointing the finger here. But in an attempt to be humble, we have to be patient. Humility, I think, is only reached through patience with ourselves. And that comes with this unconditional self-acceptance. I talked about unconditional acceptance externally in the last point. I want to touch briefly on unconditional self-acceptance. If you accept yourself, and this is part of self-esteem. This is part of self-actualization, true self-esteem, true self-actualization. Not the self-esteem that leads you to believe that you're special and above everybody else, but the self-esteem that leads you to understand and actualize that you have inherent value. You have an inherent dignity, and part of that consequently means that you have to unconditionally accept yourself, like just based on that point alone. Be kind, be accepting, and be respectful to yourself, and treat yourself like you're someone that you should be taken care of. Don't be a tyrant to yourself. Don't be, and what that looks like is those thoughts, right? Like those negative, depressive, anxious-ridden thoughts that are down-putting and off-putting and would put anybody down, let alone yourself. So why are you saying them to yourself? You shouldn't treat yourself like that. And to me, that's being a controlling tyrant to yourself. You should treat yourself when you've done good and you've tried and you've worked hard and you've made positive change in your life, just as you would someone you were taking care of. So all that to be said, you have to be patient, and you'll find patience in unconditional self-acceptance, accepting you for who you are. And it's like, boom, right there, you've got the base, you've got the foundation, you've got the realization, the self-actualization of self-esteem and the dignity you inherently have. You're ready to move forward and try daily to be a better version of yourself. Okay, here we are at the end of the video, guys. I hope that helped. I just appreciate you watching all the way through to the end. A like and a share go a long way, and comment below as well if you guys liked the video. If you didn't, you want to talk more about it, let me know. If you got questions, I will try to answer them. And I just love the comments, so keep them coming. And as always, guys, subscribe, hit that alert button, and share this video, guys. I said a like and share going a long way, but really, honestly, like I've told in my other videos, my mission with all of this, with SacredU philosophy, is to try and help people and to try and have these deep, meaningful conversations, or as deep as I can take them. And part of that is, in part of a way that you can become involved in that is sharing these videos and showing it to people that you might think need to hear it or would just be interested and want to jump in and hop into the conversation. Appreciate you guys, and I hope you're having a good one, and I will see you soon.